This is my crowning achievement, okay? I am so proud of myself because recently I have been dubbed a Russian bot by people on X, and I am so happy that I have officially achieved this status. I will wear this as a badge of honor because it means that people are not only seeing what I'm saying, but it is resonating with them enough that they feel the need to comment on the things that I say, whether I'm right or wrong. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm always right. I show you guys what I'm talking about. I show you guys these things. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a great time. All right, so I would like to show you what happened on X the other day. Look at this. So I was just perusing around and I saw, here's the full context, okay? I saw this guy named AJ Punk. He said that the number of people who go bankrupt every year because of medical bills, and then he lists a bunch of countries that have socialized medical systems, and it had 0. And then down here at the United States, it says 643,000. I don't know if this number is real or not. It doesn't really matter to me at all. But I did say that, or I decided to comment on it, and I said, in those countries, they just die before being able to see the doctor. Doctor's visits are free, but you need to wait 1 year before you can be seen. There are dozens of stories out there. There are, I would say hundreds probably, of stories out there of people who had problems and they called to get an appointment at a hospital or an urgent care or something like that, and then they end up succumbing to whatever illness they had before they can get any kind of surgery. So that's what I said. I said in these countries, most people just like die before they can see the doctors. So sure, people go bankrupt because of medical bills, but that's because of overinflated U.S. medical prices, but that's a different conversation. Anyway, he decided to reply. He replied to me. People are talking to me. I'm so happy. He said, no, we don't. I had to have my gallbladder removed. I was seen the night of my attack and surgery and scheduled for surgery. 6 months later, I had it removed. So naturally, I replied to him and I said, 6 months later, I had it removed. No, you're right. You don't need to wait a year. Silly me. Silly me. Oh, but anyway, let's get to the crux of this. Because a lot of people decided to play, and they're all taking it like, no, they don't. My son had to do this, and then he only had to wait 30 minutes. And, idiot, I am French and very much alive. I'd like to point out that these people's names are Callie Del C, Gigi, Flaming Progressive, and Char Crazy Cat Lady. All right? I'm pissing off the right people, all right? Oh, dude, your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you guys cheer. So anyway, Flaming Progressive decided to say fake news from a Russian bot commenting to my comment. I, in these people's eyes, am a Russian bot. And what I'm saying is apparently fake news. Guys, I've done it. I've reached the zenith of my career on the internet. I have become a Russian bot that peddles in fake news. Oh, man. Oh, boy. You know, fake news like this, right? This is an article from secondstreet.org, okay? Sun News column, waiting list deaths more common than we think. People on waiting lists in these countries die before they can be seen. This is the fake news from the Russian bot. Check this out. In 2019, 72-year-old Quebec patient Michael Howell, I hope I got his name right, rest in peace, was told he needed heart surgery within 2 to 3 months. Howe lasted 5 months on a government waiting list. So he got seen, but then was scheduled for his heart surgery 5 to 6 months later. And then he died while waiting for his surgery. He was on the government waiting list for 5 months. A few months after his death, the government finally phoned him to schedule his surgery. So he waited for 5 months on the waiting list for this heart surgery. And then after 5 months, he died. And then a few months after that, the Canadian government calls him to schedule his heart surgery. People are dying before they can be seen. This is the quote, fake news. Okay? 21 hospitals and health regions did respond to our request for verifying accounts of data. However, their records showed 1,480 patients died while waiting for surgery between 2018 and 2019. However, as those health bodies represent less than half of Canadians' population, the true figure is likely closer to 4,000. Are we between 2018 and 2019? 4,000 people in Canada alone died while on a waiting list for some sort of surgery. Oh, wow. It's almost like I know what I'm talking about. Oh, and you know, look, these are very common. There are a lot of these articles. Okay, let's look at this one. How about this one? How about plea from a dying teen? Please help. This is how the public healthcare system we consider among the world's best came to fail hundreds of people waiting for stem cell transplants. What? This is Laura Hillier, 18 years old, of Burlington, died in January from a form of leukemia considered curable. But doctors say the healthcare system failed her by forcing her to remain on a wait list for a stem cell transplant until it was too late. This is the second story in a row where it's been curable and they force them to wait on a waiting list for too long and they end up succumbing. So this is Laura Hillier decided to put I believe it was a voice recording. So this is a voice recording of an 18-year-old girl cracks in distress. She's propped up in a hospital bed, eyes swollen from crying, lips stained red from bleeding lungs. Hello, I'm Laura Hillier. I'm in the ICU. I can't breathe. Soon a tube will be stuck down my throat again, and for feeding as well, and I won't be able to talk. They said I may not wake up, but I really hope I do. If I don't, I hope this never happens to anyone ever again, and that the government sees that there needs to be funding. Because people are dying when we can save them. We can save these people. Please help. Thank you. Laura recorded these words, shared for the first time, because she thought they would be her last. She recorded these words because she thought she would die. And she did. While her friends were graduating high school and settling in a freshman university, the Burlington teenager was getting a cruel lesson in the fatal shortcomings of Ontario's healthcare system. Laura went to, Juravinski Hospital in Hamilton, expecting to get better, cured even. Yes, the acute myeloid leukemia that nearly killed her 5 years ago was back, but it was beatable. And she couldn't have been in better hands. Her own physician, Dr. Erwin Walker, is a Canadian pioneer of the stem cell transplant procedure that Laura thought she would receive, but never did. Instead, for 7 excruciating months until her death in January on January 20th, the teenager bore witness to one of the province's most devastating healthcare secrets and died trying to do something about it. This is the fake news, right? These people are fucking gross. Instead, Laura was one of hundreds of Ontarians tacked to the bottom of a too-long waiting list for the transplant procedure. A wait list most patients didn't know even existed. What follows is a raw account of how a public health care system we consider among the world's best failed Laura. Okay? This is just telling us what happened, all right? She was put on a waiting list for this treatment and then never received it because she waited for far too long and died of her cancer before she could get the treatment. Because the way that it works in these socialist systems is that there's a set amount of doctors. And now, because it's free for everyone, everyone wants to go and get it. But there's only so much money to go around because they're funded through taxpayer dollars. So they're not going to build 100 more hospitals to accommodate for the new increase in patients. They're just going to put the patients on a big-ass waiting list, and what happens is that leukemia, a type of fucking cancer that is totally curable apparently, according to this doctor who is apparently a pioneer in the field, leukemia that is curable by this doctor can't be cured because he can't get to her fast enough. Are we seeing what is happening here? This is not me making shit up. This is not fake news from a Russian bot, all right? I'm the only Russian bot apparently on the planet that advocates for American expansion and imperialism, which you would know if you knew anything about me or even looked at my fucking page before deciding to say something, Mr. Democrat progressive guy, whatever the fuck your name was. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so look, again, these are very common. Very, very common. I'll show you. See? Here's another one. This is from the Calgary Herald. This says Alberta man died from the lockdown, not COVID-19. Okay, so these are a couple years ago, but these are fucking articles. On April 16th, Jerry Dunham was told by a nurse at his Alberta doctor's office that a procedure to get a defibrillator for his racing heart... it's a pacemaker, not a defibrillator. That's a typo. That a procedure to get a pacemaker for his racing heart would not be going ahead because of COVID-19. Dunham remained waiting for 45 minutes to hopefully see his doctor to plead with him to get the procedure done. To no avail. His doctor was, quote, too busy to see him, which is what he was told, even though he was there on a scheduled appointment and there were no other patients seen coming in or out of the office. He had to get a pacemaker for his heart. He was there on a scheduled appointment, and the doctor was, quote-unquote, too busy. He said, I was basically told that the government is willing to risk my life to save my life, he wrote. Let me say that again. My government told me they're willing to let me die, which, according to them, is for my own safety. These were his words, and they describe it as prophetic words. Within 2 months, on June 7th, the talented musician and father of 2 young daughters died at the Medicine Hat Regional Hospital with his devastated family by his side. He was only 46 years old. Dunham, who had toured around the country as a bass player with various bands, suffered a cardiac arrest on May 30th and was deprived of oxygen to his brain. He had a heart attack because his doctor was too busy to give him a pacemaker even though he was there on a scheduled appointment. And because it was the COVID-19 lockdowns, he was sent home, and the doctor didn't want to do anything. So he was put on a waiting list for too long, and he died. This is the third story of this happening. I could continue reading, but I think we got the point. He was diagnosed with this a long time ago, and he had to get a new pacemaker, and because of that, he didn't make it. He had a heart attack because the doctor was too busy to give him a pacemaker. Because in these socialist systems, the waiting list is far too long. You need a privatized healthcare system that incentivizes people to build more hospitals to accommodate for more patients. The thing is, when it's all funded by the same source, which would be the federal subsidized healthcare system that you guys have in France and the UK and Canada and in all those other fucking countries, there's only so much money to go around because you can only take so much money from from the taxpayers before it starts to become a problem. But if it's privatized and people can make money by owning hospitals, it incentivizes everyone to own a hospital if they want, which means there will be enough beds to go around. There will be enough doctors to see you. If the waiting list is too long at this hospital, go to the one across the street. That's why I say the American healthcare system is better. Now, we can have a conversation about the inflated prices in the medical system in America, but that's not the conversation we're having. Right now, we're having a conversation about the fact that people die on waiting lists in these countries, and the fact that people decided to call me a fake news spewing Russian bot for pointing this shit out. Okay? Your boos mean nothing to me. I've seen what makes you cheer, and I am very proud that you think I am a Russian bot, because it means that I am doing something worthy of doing something. Here's another one. This is from the CBC. I believe Canadian Broadcasting something.ca, right? Family of Manitoba woman who died waiting for heart surgery demands answers and proposes legislation. Quote unquote, Debbie's Law. And this, by the way, is not old. This is from March of 2025. Okay? This is recent. This shit still happens. Debbie's Law would require patients be told if the system can't provide timely, life-saving surgery. Debbie Fooster's family says she was entering a sweet time in her life. Yada, yada, yada. She had just, by fall, she was dead at age 69. And her family is blaming what they say is a flawed healthcare system that left her waiting too long for urgently needed heart surgery. This is what, the second person that's died because of a heart problem? We trusted the system to save her, but it failed her, and it's failing too many others, Fooster's son Daniel said at the news conference on Wednesday in Winnipeg. Fooster's family and a public policy advocacy group called secondstreet.org, this is That's the website that we went to when we were looking at Michael Hoole, the 70-something-year-old man that died of a heart attack. That's the website that we were on when we were looking at him. So they called the group secondstreet.org, held the news conference to call on the provincial government to create legislation that better protects patients on waiting list. They're proposing legislation they've dubbed Debbie's Law, which would require the healthcare authorities inform patients when life-saving treatments cannot be provided in a timely period, and discuss options to care outside of the province. Quote, Debbie's Law won't fix everything, but it will introduce something that is desperately needed and is a and that is radical honesty. Said Colleen Dick, one of Fooster's daughters. She wants to see deaths of people on waiting lists tracked in order to better understand and fix the problem. We are here today because we refuse to let her loss be in vain. We pray that our voices will be heard. Since being registered as a charitable organization in 2017, Second Street has compiled data on waiting lists patients who have died and summarized the research. That's what we looked at earlier. According to Second Street, it has identified nearly 75,000 cases where patients died waiting for various surgeries and diagnostic scans since the 2018 and 2019 fiscal year. So that's since 2018, right? That's not including the 4,000 that they were estimating that did die between 2018 and 2019, right? It says the number is likely much higher because many jurisdictions don't track these deaths. So the number is likely much higher because not everyone tracks this. The Second Street reporting does not specify whether the death was related to the health condition the person was awaiting treatment for. So we'll say that. Second Street President Colin Craig said Nova Scotia has the best record for tracking the deaths of patients. Most other provinces do not do that, but others do provide more comprehensive data than what they find here in Manitoba. It's very difficult to get this data out of Manitoba, said Craig, a former party's direct. Wow, Manitoba obviously just doesn't want to give you this data. All right, so Fooster, a mother of 3 and granddaughter of 10, told her family in July 2024 that her doctor was concerned about her heart. Daniel said. Daniel's her son. She went for a stress test in August, and, quote, the results were so serious they called her back that night, unquote. Fooster was told she needed an echocardiogram to find a blockage and that surgery would be required within 3 weeks. Her ECG on August 22nd showed extreme blockages that required a triple bypass. So this lady needed a triple bypass on her heart. Up until then, they had moved fast. So the doctors were moving very quickly to get this figured out and get this done, okay? So they noticed that she had something wrong with her heart. They got her in. They got the tests done. They find out that she needs a triple bypass. Okay, they're all moving quickly. Right on, right on. They acted like they knew her life was on the line, and we trusted that they'd keep that pace, Daniel said. Her son said that they've been moving fast, and we trusted that they would keep doing that. But, okay, so that happened on August 22nd. By September 4th, after speaking with a pre-op nurse, Fooster was told the surgery might come later that month or maybe in early October. This is being told to her on September 4th. So they're telling her that she might have to wait 3 to 4 weeks at least. Okay, all right. The system was catching up with summer delays caused by staffing shortages due to holidays. They have a lot of people on the waiting list, so they're trying to catch up. It may take 3 or 4 weeks to get you your triple bypass heart surgery, lady. That was told to her. All right, she found out she needed a triple bypass on August 22nd. She was told on September 4th it might take a while for her to get her in. On October 3rd, by the way, they said that this would happen in late September or in early October. On October 13th, which I would consider mid-October, this lady died. Deborah Fooster died after they told her would be the latest date they could get her in. I can't describe the shock, the anger, and the grief. Our family has been devastated, Daniel said, and I fucking agree. All right, so anyway, it goes on to describe how they are now outsourcing people to the United States in certain cases whenever they need like really immediate surgery and like immediate action. They are, if there's too long of a waiting list, they will outsource that to hospitals in the United States, and the Canadian government will then reimburse the hospital for that care, right? So that's how they're dealing with that, and thankfully that works. But I do want to point out that the socialist healthcare system is now outsourcing patients to the capitalist healthcare system, okay, to the private healthcare system. They have to pick up the slack for the government-run one. That's all I'm saying. Far too many people are dying because of this, man. So anyway, this is also from the CBC.ca. This is nearly 15,000 Canadians died between 2023 and 2024. Okay? I've been picking on Canada a lot, but that's because the only continent I care about is the North American one. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, everybody else I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me at all. And Canada needs to become part of the United States. So we need to fix this shit because there are many, tens of thousands of people are dying every single year. Okay? They're estimating that since 2018, there's been 75,000 deaths in Canada alone from people who need surgery but can't get it because the lines are too long. And now they're outsourcing it. So this is saying nearly 15,000 Canadians died between 2023 and 2024 alone. Okay, just waiting for surgeries. Let's see what they have to say about it.
For 6 years, SecondStreet.org has gathered government data on patients waiting for health services in Canada. Over the course of a year, roughly 15,000 patients in Canada died while waiting for surgeries or diagnostic scans. Harrison Fleming is the Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs at SecondStreet.org. It's a think tank that examines government policies and the effect they have on Canadian lives. Harrison, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
So tell me about how you got this data.
Well, what we do is we actually send Freedom of Information requests to every provincial government, healthcare authority, a hospital or healthcare provider across the country. And so we're really banking on answers from government to be able to compile this data. And unfortunately, the number that you mentioned, as staggering as that is with more than 15,000 people, it's not even the full number because Quebec...
Yeah, because we already covered this. A lot of the provinces are not actually reporting these numbers. But yeah, no, it's retarded to say that I'm spewing fake news as a Russian bot when clearly tens of thousands of people are dying every year, and that's not debatable. This is just happening. And the numbers that we do have are likely less than what the real numbers are because we only have a certain, like, we don't have 100% of the provinces actually recording this data. So this is just from the provinces that we do have. It says 75,000 people thus far. I'm thinking it's probably 150,000 people in the last 5-6 years that have died under this healthcare system.
Newfoundland and Labrador, most of Manitoba, and for the first time that we've been doing this report, now Alberta did not provide any data for this. And so if you look at that data that we do get from provinces and you sort of see those trends and extrapolate that across the jurisdictions which didn't respond, we actually see a number that's closer to 28,000 people.
Okay, so between 2023 and 2024, they have reported 15,000, but it's likely closer to 23,000. Oh, damn.
And just to clarify, or if you can clarify, when we talk about 15,000 people dying while waiting for healthcare, you aren't suggesting that the wait times are necessarily related to the deaths, correct?
So certainly in some cases that has happened, but because governments actually don't track this data on purpose, we don't know much more than these patients died while waiting for healthcare. So certainly, if someone is scheduled for a knee op.
Yeah, it seems to be like, what do you mean? We don't know whether or not they died because they were waiting for too long. Like, no, they fucking died because they had to wait for a heart surgery. This Deborah Fooster, the lady that died and then came about this whole Debbie's Law bullshit that's happening in Canada. She died because she was told she needed a triple bypass heart surgery, but then that she would have to wait until maybe the end of the month, maybe early next month. And then mid next month, she died before ever seeing the doctor to get the surgery. They moved really fast to diagnose her, not so fast with the whole correcting the issue thing. And that's really the most important part of the healthcare issue. The correction.
and they're sadly struck by a bus crossing a street, they're still counted in the same data metric as a person who's on a wait list for 7 months and then passes away from a heart attack. And so one of the challenges that we find with this data is that governments, as I said, don't track it on purpose. And so if we look, for example, at the government of Nova Scotia, which for years has actually done a really good job at tracking this, they have been able to break it down into deaths that were not only over a recommended wait time, but deaths that likely came from, or pardon me, that wait times that contributed to deaths. So we see that tracking is possible because we've seen it from Nova Scotia. They sadly backslid a little bit this year. And so what we really need to get the true data to understand the full picture is to get this data from government so they can actually governments should actually purposely track this data so that we can get and understand the scope of the problem.
Okay. And in terms of wait times, how did BC compare to the other provinces?
Well, wait times are pretty rough right across the country. In fact, we have a website called canadawaits.ca where you can see more than 3.2 million Canadians waiting for health.
Oh, it is funny that they're talking about wait times in British Columbia. Hang on. I want to show you guys something. Hang on. So this here, right behind my face here. One of the more later articles says that doctor shortages closing British Columbia ERs, some people's only healthcare option. That means that like there's a bunch of ERs in British Columbia at least on October 14th anyway. There's a bunch of ERs in British Columbia that are closing and forcing people to not have access to healthcare anymore because those ERs aren't open anymore. So I'm just saying it's funny that they're talking about that because there's other articles apparently that are pointing out that there's a bunch of fucking ERs closing because there aren't enough doctors, which makes the waiting list super high. So I just wanted to point that out. Sorry.
Healthcare right now, and so BC, like everywhere else, faces these same types of challenges. Specifically around diagnostic exams, we see wait lists of over 6 months for something as basic as an MRI and something as important as an MRI. I mean, we're talking about an early diagnosis for something that, if it's delayed, can have serious consequences. And so those types of a half a year wait list for something as important as that is just unacceptable. And we've seen that's one of the contributing factors as to why about 4,500 people in BC between diagnostic exams and surgery lost their lives last year.
Yeah.
What are some...
They move really fast to get you diagnosed. They just don't move well. It's not that they don't move fast. I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I just think they have too much backlog and not enough people to handle it because there's only so much money to go around. So if you hire more doctors, because there's only so much money, you'll have to pay those doctors less. And those doctors don't want to get hired at hospitals that will pay them less than what they could get at other places. This is why the privatized healthcare system just works better.
Some of the solutions that you would propose to improve this situation?
Right. So one thing that we do know is healthcare funding across the country continues to not only grow, but grow past the rate of inflation. And so a lot of people who think that maybe just some more money next year will fix the problem, well, we haven't seen that happen yet. And so what Second Street really takes some time to do.
Listen, we have to get past this idea of just throwing money at a problem until it goes away. That's not how it works. That's not how money works.
Is to look around the world at other countries that offer universal public healthcare systems. So that's places where you can go to the doctor and not worry about having to pay anything. And we ask, what are those countries doing better than what we're doing? And we see a couple of things. The first is something called the Cross-Border Directive, and we see that in the European Union. And essentially what that says is if you're on a wait list for a necessary healthcare procedure, a doctor has said you need a healthcare procedure, and you can't get it within a recommended wait time, well, you can actually travel to another country and you can get that surgery done. So, for example, if you're in Sweden and you need a knee surgery done and you can't because there's a wait list in Sweden, you can fly to Germany and get that surgery done there. And then your government would reimburse you for up to what that surgery cost at home. So essentially...
See? That's what I was talking about. They're outsourcing patients to privatized healthcare systems because they don't have enough doctors to handle them in the socialist healthcare systems. It's almost like one of these systems is set up to actually provide healthcare to everybody and incentivize more doctors to show up and like do things. And another one is incentivized to collect money from the taxpayer. Look, in a privatized healthcare system, these hospitals compete, right? Which incentivizes them to keep their standard of care high. When you have a government-operated healthcare system that is like funded publicly with taxpayer funds, there is no incentive for them to compete at all. They don't have to give you a high standard of care, because where else are you gonna go? So now they're forced unless they just want their citizens to die, which is what has been happening, they're forced to outsource them to privatized healthcare systems like we have in the United States. And Canada is sending tens of thousands of people to hospitals in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, right? Because they have to. They don't have an option.
Essentially what you're doing is you're taking the existing amount of money that you'd spend on a patient, and you're using that to get them healthcare faster. And so that's a really great innovation that we're seeing come out of Europe. They've been doing that since 2011. Yep. And in Canada, we could do that between provinces, and we can look at other jurisdictions internationally to try to get people stuck.
They are doing it. So this was put out on January 20th. They are doing it now.
On wait lists, care faster.
Right.
Another thing that we see actually being done in one province in Canada, it's being done in Quebec right now, and it's also being done across the world, in Europe, in Australia, and so many other places. And that's called activity-based funding. So now, hospitals are funded at the start of the year, basically with one big grant that you see in a provincial budget. And so what that means is that every patient that walks through that door actually costs that hospital money to treat. Well, with activity-based funding, you sort of flip that incentive structure on the head. So when a patient walks in the hospital, that hospital is going to get paid for the services they're providing to that patient. We've seen it work in Quebec. They're getting...
Okay, hold on. Paid for the services that they provide to the patient. It's almost like they want to have a privatized healthcare system with extra steps. Like they want a privatized healthcare system, but they want the government to be the one that owns the hospital. Do you see how this works? Like, take it to its logical end, and that's what it is. Right now, it's all government-funded healthcare, but they want to switch it, and they're calling it an activity-based funding system, right? Where instead of at the beginning of the year, all hospitals get the exact same amount of money, they're going to get money based on the amount of activity that they have, and they're going to, they will get money based on the care that they provide to each patient, right? So if you're a patient that comes in and you need something done, then the government will give that hospital the money to pay for the thing that you needed done. It's almost like it's a federally run, privatized healthcare system. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like the American healthcare system, not a socialized one with extra steps.
26% more people through the door, and it's actually cost 7%.
You have a privatized healthcare system, then all of these hospitals get paid activity-based funding, and the government's not involved. And if you don't go to the hospital, you don't have to pay. But in the socialist system, if you don't go to the hospital, you are still paying for medical bills because it's taken out of your taxes.
% less to the...
Call me crazy. I want to keep the money that I earn.
Healthcare system. Wow. And so we know there's ideas like this that can work and help.
And if I need it to pay for medical bills, then I'll do that. But if I don't need to pay for medical bills, then I'd like to keep it.
Bring wait times down, and that's without even amending the Canada Health Act. Both of these ideas that I just mentioned are literally something that can be done basically by either a ministerial order or, again, just changing the way during the budgetary process as to how hospitals are funded. Okay. These are two quick solutions that could be implemented almost tomorrow.
Okay.
And we'd love to see some activity there. We also look at some public-private partnerships that we see a couple provinces engaging in, whether that's for MRIs or for surgeries. And we see those are ways to bring down
Dude, in country, they're outsourcing it to privatized systems. What are we doing? Why is this even an argument? The socialist healthcare system sucks.
On some wait times. And then there's also doing what every other jurisdiction that offers public health care in the world does, which is allow there to be some private care delivery within that country. And I know that's sort of a scary word when we hear that in Canada, because we know our healthcare system is sort of one of the things that is this great identifying, unifying parts of our Canadian identity.
We do hold our hat on that. We were nearing the end of time, but I do want to read to you, Harrison, when we reached out to the BC Ministry of Health for a response to your brief. In part, the Minister of Health, Josie Osborne, wrote, "I empathize with patients and families who are waiting for important medical procedures.
I empathize. I just don't care.
Any wait feels too long. We know more needs to be done. Our government is working hard to recruit skilled staff, increase operating room hours, and add diagnostic imaging equipment." As I mentioned, we're nearly out of time, but what are your initial thoughts on that?
You know, it's sort of similar that we hear the same sentiment from ministries across the country. Yeah. And I totally believe that is exactly how they are feeling. But at the end of the day, feelings aren't action. And we have some really credible ideas to help bring those.
It's all just pandering, my guy. Like, you understand, it's just pandering.
Wait time.
They're going to promise the world, and then they won't deliver it. It's the same thing that happens with the Democratic Party in the United States, right? Like, they create a problem, and then they campaign on fixing that problem, and then when they get elected, they don't fix the problem, so that next campaign cycle they can run again on fixing the problem that they created 2 cycles ago, right? Like, that's what they're doing here. They're saying, oh, this is a problem that we need to fix, and then once you elect them, they're going to be, well, let's wait. You know, we're not gonna fix it yet. You know, it's the typical like, I'm going to put forth this 5-year plan, even though my administration's only here for 4 years, which means that in order to get this plan done, you need to elect me a second time. And if you don't, then, well, we just didn't have time to complete it. It's just it's wordplay, it's pandering, it's fucking political posturing, it's bullshit, right?
Times down and get people the care they need. So I hope the minister's open to some innovation, because we have some ideas that are ready to go.
Awesome. Harrison, sorry to rush you there, but thank you so much for this look at an important topic.
Really appreciate being on tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, really, really, really appreciate that. That's awesome. Cool. So anyway, yeah, I am not a Russian bot. I have, in fact, never been to Russia. I don't want to ever go to Russia. It sounds like a shithole. I am all for America, and the stuff that I say is not fake news. It's just uncomfortable news for you to deal with, and I don't really care, because the truth is the truth, whether it hurts your feelings or not, whether it makes you feel bad or not, whether you hate the United States, whether you hate capitalism, whether you hate Trump or not, your healthcare system sucks. Private healthcare is much better. Now, again, we can have a conversation about whether or not the prices are inflated in the American private healthcare system. That's a different conversation. Prices are inflated, but you can be seen. And if you can't, you can go somewhere that you can be, because there are enough hospitals and enough doctors to care for them, because you are incentivized to become a fucking doctor, and you are incentivized to build a hospital if you would like. Anyway, so that's just what I wanted to say. I am super proud that I am now officially a Russian bot on X, and you know, I just this is a crowning achievement in my life. This is definitely a milestone in my streaming and my YouTube career, and I am one step closer to pissing off a lot more people, right? Which is going to be great. Anyway, subscribe to me on X at @real_Cestal, because, again, I make based opinions that people don't like, and I do not care. They are the most based opinions on the internet. If you watch videos on YouTube, you can find me at Cestal. If you watch videos on Rumble because you don't like YouTube, then you can find me at Cestal. And I stream once a week right here on Kick every Sunday between 8:30 and 9 o'clock p.m. where I am. Anyway, follow me on the things. Bye, guys.